Welcome back to She Talks Money, the show where we talk about building wealth, creating freedom, and becoming the CEO of your life. Today's guest is the definition of a modern wealth builder. Steph Peters is a real estate agent, investor, speaker, and the founder of The Boss Life, a brand that empowers women to create income, impact, and independence. Steph built a seven-figure side hustle in her 20s, leveraged it into a successful real estate career, and now helps others grow multiple income streams and portfolios that align with their purpose. If you've ever wondered how to start before you feel fully ready, or how to build wealth while still working full-time, this episode is going to blow your mind. Welcome to She Talks Money, Steph.
Oh, Jen, I think I need to steal that intro because I always send over my bio and I loved yours even more. So
Perfect. I'll send it to you. I love it.
great. That's great.
So we kind of met a while back and I follow you a lot, and I just am so excited to share with my audience your story because I feel like you should be like the logo of what I represent and try to share with people. And your story is just an absolute example of what we try to help people do, right? You're just like the living evidence that it works when people just put their mind to it and start. And you can start small, but it's absolutely possible for everyone. So why don't we start with just a little bit of a background of your story? And you were young, you were in your 20s, and really after some hard grit and effort, you created this amazing side hustle that probably really catapulted and launched the rest of your career, gave you the opportunity to do that. So tell us your background, Steph.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first off, I want to say thank you so much for inviting me. When I have been seeing like little clips on Instagram of what you're doing with the podcast, I'm like, you are my girl, because it seems like there's so many lenders that are so in the box and all they do is lending, which is fine. That's typically how it goes. But I love that you have a bigger purpose behind it, a bigger why, even starting the podcast and saying, you know what, I don't want to even just keep all this knowledge to myself, but I want to pay this forward to other people and really help, a rising tide lifts all ships. So thank you
Yes.
for sharing everything that you are sharing. And I'm just honored to be here and have you as a friend. So
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. And I love that like we're so on the same wavelength and can help feed one another. So I'm excited to hear from you today.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think I was born just kind of out of the box.
Mhm.
Even growing up, everybody was like, wow, she's really different, which is so true. I mean, I never was the girl that wanted to go out and party in high school. I was like, man, everyone's wasting so much time. Like, let's
Yes,
get after it,
I
and
love
even
that.
like at the age of 18, I went to go study abroad in Costa Rica because I thought that would be a great way to like expand my horizons, get to, just really experience life on another level. But at the same time, I was like, I want to keep things moving from a career standpoint.
Hmm.
So I partnered up with this Inc. 500 company, having no prior business experience. I was like, I had a pretty big ego at the age of 18. I'm like, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to go to the top.
I love
Nobody's
it.
going to stop me. And I had a very rude awakening. Like, I joke with my team even now. I say, I was going nowhere super fast because I was not coachable. I was not teachable. I was what's up, which I truly wasn't. So then I really got humbled. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was in Edina at the Galleria. I was pitching, working with the Inc. 500 company to probably this 50-year-old guy. And
Mhm.
he looks straight at me and he's like, why don't you go get a real job? And
Oh,
my heart just sunk. And then he said, you know what? It seems like you have a lot of potential, but you are just spinning your wheels. And at that point, honestly, I was spinning my wheels.
hmm.
And I broke. And he just spit fire of like, you know what? You just don't have anything going on for yourself. Who do you think you are? And like all these things to a little 18-year-old
Oh.
girl. And it's like, what is freaking wrong with you? I shut my laptop, I ran to my little car, and I started bawling. And I said, God, why are you making this so damn hard?
Hmm.
And I heard this still small voice. I'm doing a condensed version because it was pretty
Yeah.
emotional, especially for this little 18-year-old girl.
Yes.
And I heard this still small voice. As soon as you can make this about other people and not yourself, I will open doors that no man can shut.
Oh, wow.
And it was that moment of like, you need to get out of your own dang way. This is
Hmm.
about empowering other people. And that was when my heart shifted. And I will tell you, I became coachable. I became teachable. I reached out to a guy actually in New York who had done what I wanted to do. And I said, I will pay you to mentor me. And he never collected a dime. He's not even here
Mm.
anymore. He was one of my absolute best friends, literally one of my best mentors to date. And he said, Steph, fly out here. I'm yours. How can I help? And
Wow.
literally, his mentorship, also some other amazing mentors around me, and just giving it to God and saying, I'm yours. I'm going to be your hands and feet. And I don't care how long it's going to take me to get to the goal. I will get there
Hmm.
regardless, but it's who I can help along the way. And I became the youngest female senior director in that company, youngest female executive director in that company. I made seven figures in my 20s. And it was just like a thank you, Lord. And just like
Hmm.
incredible people along the way. So I want to encourage those people that are maybe really young, or even if they feel like they're older and they're like, man, I just can't quite get it together. Sometimes it's just that heart shift of why are you doing the thing, and then let that heart shift really drive you. And so yeah, it's I'm so thankful. I had a lot of success with that Inc. 500 company, but then I hit 30. The
Hmm.
weatherman came on, said, congratulations, Minnesota. You have broken the record for number of days below zero. And I was like, it broke my soul. I'm like, I'm out. I sold everything besides my real estate portfolio, moved to Florida full time, had an early mini midlife crisis, probably jumping in front of myself because I am ADD, Jennifer.
Yeah.
But yeah, feel free to talk to me about my real estate and how when I started that. But yes, the whole foundation was built by partnering up with that Inc. 500 company. It gave me the time freedom, financial freedom, and location freedom to really pursue my dreams. Like I knew I didn't want to join that 40-40-40 club where you work for 40
Yeah.
years, 40 hours a week, and then you
Right.
retire on 40% of the income that most can't live on in the first place. So thinking
Yeah.
about how can you think outside the box like you do, Jen?
Yeah.
And how can we help get you to that next point?
And can I also point out to our listeners something that you did that is critical that I hear you say? Because people ask me, like, what was a pivotal point or what really launched you? And it was like, we lived below our means for a very long time. And that
Mhm.
allowed us to invest in things that really helped us grow and build wealth. You, to your
Mhm.
point, maybe your mentor didn't accept money, but you, Steph, were willing to invest in yourself. And probably the counter to that is like not having necessarily a super expensive car or paying a little bit less in rent or mortgage somewhere so that you can have the funds to invest in yourself to create what you've created. So people pay attention to that and really think about if your life isn't where you want it to be, like what are you spending your money on and maybe what can you sacrifice to reinvest in yourself to help you grow. So you moved to Florida. So tell us a little bit about what happened in your 30s. Like, when did you and how did you buy your first investment property? And how did that kind of create a domino effect into being a real estate investor?
Absolutely. Well, I'll need to backtrack back to Minnesota because that's where I started investing.
Okay.
So I was 21 when I bought my first property. And you're exactly right. I definitely lived below my means. Like if people would know the backstory, I bought my first investment property while still living with my parents.
Wow. I love that.
I mean, I think probably some people are like, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. But it's like, you know what? I had to knock my ego down because your ego
Mhm.
is not your amigo. It will
Right.
hold you back. You can either 10x without the ego, or you can just stay exactly where you're at. Like even
Hmm.
I bought a nice car for my first car. I sold it and bought a Ford Focus because I was like, until I get to this certain point, I
Yes.
will be driving this Ford Focus. And
Yep.
I will tell you, there were little gremlins in the tires and it was not great. And everyone made fun of me. They're like, "You make how much?" Like I was making more than my professors, but I didn't care because I was like,
Mhm.
"Nope, this is the end game." And so
Yeah.
really keeping your eye on the prize of, okay, I want to get to this financial freedom number where work is optional. That was my
Yeah.
first real goal of what I wanted to accomplish while helping other people do the same thing. So to answer your question, I bought that first investment property back in like the 08, 09 timeframe when the bubble burst. So it
Mhm.
was good timing.
Yes.
I bought it 50-50 with a business partner. I paid him off. And then I was like, man, this is going really well. Let's buy another one. So I bought another one and another one and another one. And I still have all those properties in Minnesota paid
Mhm.
off. Thank you, Lord. And now I have lines of credit. So when I need to strip, that
Mhm.
equity, I absolutely can do that. And then, so yeah, so I had a number of investment properties. So I knew financially jumping from Minnesota
Mhm.
to Florida. I knew that that would be able to pay all of my monthly expenses, and then I would just build on that. So at 30, I moved, sold everything besides that real estate portfolio.
Wow.
And I didn't really necessarily have a plan. I always knew that I was going to continue to build with the Inc. 500 company, but I also knew that I really wanted to be even that much more intentional with real estate investing.
Mm.
So that's the backstory
I
there.
love that. And hear that. By 30, she has this real estate portfolio that basically pays all of her monthly expenses. So everything you're making above and beyond that, right, is capital now for future investments or whatever. So that's incredible. So tell us a little bit about you've done a lot of things and I am an advocate of I love helping people learn different options that are available to them and then making sure they have a diverse portfolio. So it's not just all single family homes or all short term rentals because as we know, the market can shift and the tide changes. And if you're diverse, if something over here isn't really going great at the moment, you can have things over here that are and
Mhm.
feel balanced. So tell us a little bit about the different. I know you've done fix and flips, long term holds, short term holds, even wholesaling. Can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about each and then maybe pros and cons of so people can kind of figure out like, hey, what might be the right fit for me to start?
Yeah. Well, I think so. My brother and I, through the years, we've actually taught a class called Invest Like a Boss, like 101 on real estate investing. And what I love about that is we really walk through all the benefits to real estate,
Mm-hmm.
but then we go through how to get started. Because a lot of people get very intimidated that they think, oh, real estate investing is for down the line when
Mm-hmm.
I'm more established. It's like, no, I didn't know what I was doing at the age of 21. I just knew that I was going to do it. And so
Yeah.
you want to be educated enough, but not to the point where you have to know everything. So what I recommend for people that are new in the game is you could even house hack, buy a
Yeah.
duplex, live in one side and have the other or have the tenant pay
Mm-hmm.
your rent. So I mean that's what my brother he did in college. He had a side hustle, but literally all his roommates
Mm-hmm.
paid for the mortgage plus. So he was living rent free all the way through college.
I
So if
love
you
that.
can that out even with a family, it absolutely can be done. You can do that with a triplex, you can do that with a quadplex. I never did the house hacking, but what I did do, I bought that first investment, just a townhome. And I think that's a really great, simple point of entry
Mm-hmm.
because I think with how things have shifted in like the Airbnb arena,
Mm-hmm.
having that be the first investment, unless you are willing to deal with a lot of moving
Mm-hmm.
pieces and pivoting and just knowing that, hey, that's maybe going to be my home when I retire.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really looking for like cash flow that is going to be reliable versus kind of a roller coaster, I'd highly recommend the buy and hold. Buying a
Yep.
simple little townhome, putting a renter in there, getting it cash flowing, you're good to go. The other thing that people have really gotten great at is the fix and flip. I
Mhm.
have done my share of fix and flips. I will say I've a lot of times partnered with someone that
Mhm.
does the deep in the weeds type of stuff,
Yeah.
and then I'm basically the hard money lender.
Mhm.
I don't love flipping. I feel like the margins are even like less and less
Mhm.
now because of where the interest rates are at. If that's something that you want to test drive, there are people that have been very successful at it. It's just not my jam.
Mhm.
I like more of like a long term, and I don't want to keep going in and out of houses. It's just not my jam. It's ordinary income from a tax
Mhm.
perspective. So I'd much rather have my long term holds. That's what works best for me. I also have done a lot in the Airbnb space. I've helped a lot of clients with Airbnb. There's a lot of shifting regulation with that.
Mhm.
There's still areas that are exclusive, which I'd highly recommend,
Mhm.
because if you have an Airbnb that's in an exclusive area where they aren't, handing out Airbnb licenses like candy, it can still be very lucrative, but you have to know that there's a higher cost of doing business. You have
Right.
to outfit the whole thing unless you buy a place that is
Mhm.
completely outfitted. And then you have tenants that are very random and do very crazy things. I could write a book.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
some of those, like you can't unsee some of these things.
Right.
And you just kind of smile and nod, and that's why we still own, even as a family and even me personally, I still own Airbnbs, but it is a smaller percentage of my portfolio. I had a bigger percentage and I sold some of those off. I've done multifamily. I just exited with my triplex. I made a little over six figures in and out. That was a nice like little turn. I feel like with multifamily, for me personally, you have a lower end renter typically.
Mhm.
And so, yes, on paper, you can look like you're making more, but
Yes.
when you have tenants that are crazy,
Mhm.
then sometimes I'm just being real.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Oh, you have to, right? You have to take that into consideration.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, ask me any other questions in any of those veins.
And what do you think about location diversification? Because I think that's really important too. I mean, I'm in Minnesota, you're in Florida. Even as we speak, our markets are very different right now. I
Oh,
mean, we're in multiple offers across almost everything at the moment, where I know I've talked to other Florida agents and there's a little bit of a slowdown. And we're opposite seasons, I think too, but
yeah.
so diversifying your location can be really helpful as well, correct?
Absolutely. So, what I highly recommend is get into a location and master it. Don't
Hmm.
go too wide too quick.
Right.
Because I will say, my brother and I went on a little trip to Indianapolis, and he's like, "Oh, the numbers look great here. I thought I had an amazing property manager. I thought I had amazing handymen, boots on the ground, all the things. I did
Mhm.
all my due diligence, and I will never." I promise you on a stack of Bibles, never invest in Indianapolis again. I probably have PTSD. I'm sure people make lots of money there. It's just not my jam. I literally, Jen, I should send you pictures of the back of the house. It literally, like, all the bricks fell off. It was 100-year-old plus
Oh
home.
no.
A freaking nightmare. And then I have some pretty funny stories, but like sad stories about the tenants in there. It's a whole other level. So I say all that to say, get into one area,
Hmm.
master it, do at least, in my opinion, four rental properties in a certain area. Then,
Sure.
if you want to diversify, absolutely do that. But there's also a cost to your next area, because you're cutting your teeth on who are the
Hmm.
right property managers, who are the right handymen, who's the right pool guy. What it's really, really important to know what you're getting into. And you
Hmm.
can think you've done all your due diligence, but until
Hmm.
you actually get there, you don't know. So I think diversification is important. What I highly recommend is you want to be diversified in areas, but also you want to be diversified in single family,
Yeah.
multifamily, and Airbnb and like different modalities there.
Hmm.
Because then if you need to shift on a dime because regulation has changed with like, let's say Airbnb,
Hmm.
now you know how to effectively do that. And the other thing you want to be aware of if you start to go deep into real estate investing, make sure that you know the inheritance tax
Oh,
in
yeah.
these different areas, because like even in Minnesota, once you have $6 million worth of real estate, if you go over that, if your end game is to have your children inherit those, they're
Hmm.
going to have to pay inheritance tax. That's
Yeah.
not why you're doing it. So
Right.
you just make sure that you think through what's the end game. That's why I love having a good amount of real estate in Minnesota, a good amount of real estate in Florida. Will I invest to maybe an Airbnb in the mountains or,
Hmm.
somewhere fun in Tennessee? Yeah, maybe I will. But right now, with what my bandwidth is and running, my other businesses, that's the capacity that I have right now.
Okay, that's great. Can you share one deal or investment move that made a huge difference in your wealth journey?
Oh man. Well, when I bought my first Airbnb property,
Hmm.
the market was just on the way up.
Right.
And that was a pretty nice exit.
Hmm.
I will say I couldn't believe, like I remember talking to one of the gals who introduced me to Airbnb in the Bradenton area, and I said, "This is how much I'm making with my long-term holds, and this is how much you're making with the Airbnb. Like, why am I not doing this?" And
Right.
so when I started to dial into that, when the market was really hitting on all cylinders, that really opened my eyes to it's game time. And
Hmm.
so that was definitely a jump up. And then also exiting out of some different wholesale deals in wholesale, that was also like quick turnarounds of
Hmm.
6 figures on this, that, like paint and carpet. That was nice. I'm always thinking about long-term game, and that's why like you're not going to find those huge jumps up in wealth with those long-term plays. So I
Hmm.
always say take advantage of the short wins, like
Hmm.
the in and out, or the Airbnb, when you see that pocket, like take advantage of it. But I'm always like those like even real estate transactions. I love helping people in real estate.
Hmm.
There's great, commissions and stuff, but I never want to rely on it. But it is a nice jump up.
Right. And to your point, that's why it's also nice to have different like to be educated on different modalities, because then you can pivot when necessary, or maybe fix and flips isn't your favorite, but if you're at least well versed in it or surrounded by people that you, to your point, you can partner with, it's a great way to build a little bit of capital to then invest in the
Exactly.
long-term rentals or the short-term Airbnb properties, but we obviously need the down payments. So that's kind of a strategy some people will take. What do you think is one mistake that you made early on, and what did it teach you?
Hmm. I relied on someone else. I kind of put them on a pedestal and
Mm.
took their advice versus my gut and my own research. Because I don't mean to throw I love my brother.
Yes.
I don't I don't mean to throw him underneath the bus, but it's like if I would have gone with my own gut and
Hmm.
not gotten in too quick and too deep,
Hmm.
that was a big loss. And that was a big, not more so than even the financial piece,
Hmm.
the inner piece is what
Hmm.
that really took for a period of time. And so I think it's really important. Know what amount of money is worth the peace inside your soul. Like
Yeah.
I'm now at a season in my life where I'm so thankful for the money that comes in. But if there's like something that could just be a really big like jump, but there's a lot of different types of risk. I'm all about calculated risk, but you
Hmm.
do, in my opinion, I need to go with my gut and what makes sense
Yes.
for my family in this season.
Yes. Good for you. That's great advice. So you're a big advocate, obviously, of multiple streams of income. Do you have an opinion or a belief on the first two that women should prioritize?
Well, I think it really depends on where they're at financially coming to the table. Like, do you have a really good job? If
Hmm.
you have a really good job and you have some extra income and you can jump right to real estate, do that.
Hmm.
Because I think real estate is one of the best ways of building wealth. Now, if you're at a point where you're like, man, I'm having a hard enough time paying the bills,
Hmm.
I don't have that extra cash, well, then I would highly recommend doing something like what I did, partnering with like some type of an Inc. 500 company or something that is your zone of genius that can
Hmm.
leverage your time as a busy professional. Because I totally get. I used to really kind of downplay like 9 to 5,
Hmm.
not a good idea. You're trading hours for dollars, but hey, if you're making really good money with that, what is wrong with that?
Yeah,
But I will
absolutely.
but then on the flip side to that, I'm all about we all are working hard. I mean,
Hmm.
most of us, maybe
Hmm.
not some millennials, but but are we working smart and are we leveraging our time? Because when I saw the business model with that Inc. 500 company that I still consistently pursue, and that income stream alone pays for all of my monthly expenses,
Wow.
that has a 96% monthly reorder rate. So 90% of the clientele that came last month are going to come again and again. And I opened up some accounts in February of 2007. So I'm
Wow.
legitimately still getting paid for the work that I did in February of 2007. So find something that you're passionate about. It
Hmm.
really works synergistically with your brand, and it's something that you can leverage. It's not all on your own effort.
Hmm.
And you keep building on what you did the month before versus starting at ground zero and getting caught in the rat race. So I would say that's probably a long-winded answer, but to put a bow on it
Yeah.
is, have that one stream of income that you're making really good money. If you aren't, then diversify with something where it can be that side hustle and like leveraging your time, leveraging your effort, and then go on over to real estate.
I love that. And I like the formula of like we can best help those people that are in a spot that we used to be, right? Something that we've come through. So, what have you gone through that makes you a better person today or some lesson that you've learned? And then what is your current skill set? So maybe you are at a corporate job, but you have a specific niche or skill
Mhm.
set, and then how can you feed those other people? Find a way. And like to your point,
Love,
something that's repetitive on repeat. You can do once and then continue to build from it and make more money is how you're going to be the most successful.
for sure.
Can you walk us through the core pillars of the boss life and what that name really means to you?
So, my tagline at the end of my podcast is it's time to fire your fear, build your faith, and become the boss of your own life.
I love that.
So, it's just to me, it encapsulates all of the things that we preach in
Hmm.
that. You know, fear is one of the biggest things holding us back. Like I remember early on in partnering with that Inc. 500 company, and I was seeing these people that I can be a little judgy. I'm really working on that. But I just remember seeing some people, I'm like, if they're that successful at this, like, why am I not killing it?
Yeah.
Like, but I think the reason that some of these people that you're like, how have they gotten so much success? It's because they haven't listened to the stories in their head of why they can't
Mhm.
be successful. And so you have to first get a hold of your mind, tell yourself the right stories. So it's the fire your fear, build your faith. My success has come from God. I always joke, but it's true. It's like I work like everything depends on me and I pray like everything depends on God because it's so true. That is the total foundation.
I love that. I love that.
So, and then, fire your fear. It's so fire your fear, build your faith, and become the boss of your own life. Just decide. Is so many people are like, oh well, what about this and what about that? No, just decide that today is the day that you're going to stop living by default and live the life that God has called you to, and all bets are off.
Hmm. That's so, so great. And just the exact season I'm in my life. So I love that so much. So let's jumping back to real estate for a second, let's talk about risk. You've taken some bold leaps. How do you assess risk versus reward in your career and investments?
I think it's really important. Well, now being married, I've like I built basically my whole real estate. Well, I did build my whole real estate portfolio without a husband. So you have
Okay,
that
great for
excuse.
you.
There's that. I got married at the age of 35,
Okay.
and so a little bit later bloomer. And so I think it's really important. Now, Jen, just ask me that question again, just so I can just. There were a couple of different thoughts that I had there.
Yep. So you've taken some bold leaps. How do you assess risk versus reward in your career and investments?
Okay. Okay. Yes. So from a risk standpoint, my husband is an insurance agent.
Okay.
So he's a little bit more risk averse.
Oh,
I'm all about
sure.
jump and the net will appear.
Yeah, I
So
love
we're
that.
such a great team. I would say you really want to be thinking about what is your end game,
Hmm.
and then reverse engineer it, and what are the risks that you need to take in order to get there. Because if
Hmm.
you keep doing the same thing that you've always done, you're gonna keep getting the same, results.
Yeah.
And so Brian and I have talked a lot about this. When we start building our family, we might have to be a little bit less risky
Right.
in some of our investments, because I'll bet the farm on something and he'll
Mhm.
be like, wait. And so I will always say, you pray about it, and also just really make sure that you have good mentors and coaches around you that
Mhm.
you can get their feedback. And then at the end of the day, you got to make your own decision. Like there have been some times where I've asked different mentors, like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And they're like, man, that's really risky. And I've done it and it's paid off. But then
Mhm.
the flip side has happened where,
Yeah.
I took the risk when people said don't do it, and I fell hard. And that's
Mhm.
just, you just have to live with that. But I would say really be praying about it, talk to your spouse if you're married, and think about what's the end game and what are the big leaps that I need to take. I remember one of the small but big leaps being 30 and not being married, not having kids, having a very different life than a lot of 30-year-olds.
Mhm.
I was just on my own path, but having that little early mini midlife crisis, I
Mhm.
went to a mastermind with Chris and Lori Harder. And I
Okay.
was a little bit like uncomfortable going out there, because I'm usually pretty, if I decide to be outgoing, I can be. But my
Mhm.
normal nature, I always kind of joke that I am an extroverted introvert, like straight up. Like my
I
my
completely understand that. I'm exactly the same way.
my normal nature is not to put myself out there, but
Mhm.
I've learned in business, if you don't, you're dead.
Yeah.
So you just have to put yourself out there. And so when I signed up for that mastermind, that broke me open in ways I can't even say. Like there were so many breakthroughs at that event and decisions that I decided to make, and leaps, like even literally selling everything and moving to Florida, that was a risk. That
Oh
was a
yeah.
total risk. And I didn't know a soul here.
Mhm.
But I was like, this is what God has called me to. I don't know what's going to be on the other side, but I know that this is what I need to do. And fast forward, I don't think I would have met my husband. I
Mhm.
don't think I would have had the success in real estate if I hadn't made the leap, and had met some incredible people, made the impact in like just different collaborations, even with powerhouse women throughout the state.
Mhm.
None of that would have happened if I would have just stayed in the box. Even one little side to that, I really felt called to start a podcast.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't know a ton of like like at the time, I didn't know a ton of influencers. And so I really felt like, okay, I'm gonna just start sending some DMs. And if they don't answer, they don't answer.
Mhm.
Well, I sent out a DM to Pastor Nicole Crank, who had thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And I'm like, why would she even get back to me? She gets back to me in 5 minutes. She's like, come to my podcasting studio, we'll get rolling. And literally from that one connection, it opened up my connection with Bethany Martinez and Sandy Glant and so many other women, that literally we helped each other in so many ways that would have never happened if I wouldn't have, I could have told myself a story of, well, what do you have to offer, Pastor Nicole Crank? Well, you know
Mhm.
what? I've hustled, I've built a business, and I'm here to add value to everyone that I meet. So why shouldn't I take the leap? Why shouldn't I put myself out there? And as uncomfortable as those situations are, literally some of my biggest leaps have been by meeting that one person that's opened up the doors of opportunity.
That's amazing. And how amazing that I feel like all of this falls back to you opening your heart and how can I serve others? Like that shift, I feel like led you down this amazing path because you are so open to helping other people, myself included. So I'm so appreciative of that. And you kind of led into what I was going to ask is like, how important, especially for us women, how important is the circle of people that we have around us?
It's absolutely crucial. I think even more so than it is for guys. Guys just kind of do their own thing, which I still think they need, that
Yes.
circle, even though they
Yes.
don't. But I think specifically for us, having that inner circle of people that are whispering in your ear, you can do more, you can be more, you can live out that God given potential. I remember being at one of my lowest points in my life, not in a good mental place.
Mhm.
And I was halfway through writing my book, The Boss Life Blueprint. And I just like really was at a point where I was like, you know what? Maybe this is just not what I'm supposed to do. And
Mhm.
I remember my girlfriend from Miami, Bethany Martinez, calling me up and she's like, "How's the book coming?" And I said, "Oh, Bethany, I am like in such a bad place. Like, I don't think this is going to be a good fit." She said, "Shut up, stop playing small, and get after it." Like, that's
Love it.
just the way that she is. And I'm like, "Do you know how I'm hurting internally?" And she's like, "I get it, but this is cathartic. You love writing. Get after it." Like, just those type of people in your life that just snap you out of those funks and
Yes.
remind you who God has created you to be is everything.
That's amazing. We all need a Bethany friend in our
Yes,
life. That's just like, okay, I validate your feelings. Move
yes,
on. Let's keep going.
exactly. We've been here too long.
I love it. So, how do you personally manage your time and energy while you're wearing so many hats, multiple businesses, investor, agent, mentor, boss, etc.? How do you take care of yourself and manage your time?
Well, I think store hours are extremely important.
Good.
I do power hours even with my team of, okay, we're doing IPAs, income producing activities, because
Yes.
your desk can look pristine, your house can be completely immaculate, and you're going nowhere super fast.
Hmm.
Like, really need to make sure that we're keeping the main thing the main thing. And
Hmm.
then also, I always have non-negotiables in the morning. Like, I always have my devos. I have my protein shake with my greens in it, my vitamins, and I go on a walk or workout. That's
Love
just
it.
like what I do to set my day on fire. And then I'll be listening to podcasts while I'm walking or working out, getting my mind in the right spot, going through my goals in the morning, like just making sure that you're setting yourself up for success from the jump. Because if you can get your mind right, everything else can fall into place. And then if you can follow that schedule, especially with real estate, it sometimes can be hard to keep those power hours
Mhm.
in place. But I do have like set times with my team. This is when we're doing IPAs, and then I just follow my schedule. If it gets knocked off because I have to put a fire out here or there within
Mhm.
real estate, well, then we're just going to pick up where we left off. But I will always prioritize three things every single day. If I can get these three things done, then I've done great. Everything else is icing on the cake because
Mhm.
those small wins that are IPAs really compound.
I love that. And when you're talking about three things, you reminded me we've talked about the trifecta, like the long-term big goal. Can you tell us about your trifecta and why you do everything that you do?
Oh, well, I think at the beginning of my business, I'm a free spirit. I can be very planned, but it's like, don't tell me what to do, how to
Yeah.
do it. So that trifecta is I was really working towards that time freedom,
Hmm.
financial freedom, and location freedom. I'm like, you know what? That was very, very important to me, especially moving into building a family. I wanted to be able to call the shots and spend that quality time with my family, do the things that are important, do the things that matter. And so if you can really, really prioritize your life, that trifecta will fall into place. But you need to have those right mentors that are going to be guiding and directing helping you and help you make those leaps.
Yeah. And I encourage people to really listen to that and take the time to do a little soul searching and determine what those are for you because it's different for everybody. But there will be hard chapters, right? There's going to be difficult times. And when you have that in front of you up on a mirror, or you can remind yourself of the overall end goal and purpose, it helps us stay a little bit more focused and energized. So at the moment, do you have any favorite wealth book or podcast?
Ooh, well, one of my staples, because I think it's really great what people being able to make that income, but also it's a very well-known stat is like tax is one of the biggest hindrances to wealth. And so one of my favorite books in that vein would be by Tom Wheelwright, Tax-Free Wealth. It's very simple, but it's straightforward and to the point. I had a very rude awakening when my
Mhm.
husband and I got married, and I'm like, we will never pay that many taxes ever
Yeah,
again.
right.
So making sure that you have the right team around you. So that's a really great book. I love Robert Kiyosaki, like Cash Flow Quadrant. He has some
Mm-hmm.
really good, those are oldies but goodies type of a
Yeah.
thing. And then I think the other thing is if you're not growing, you're dying. Having
Hmm.
books on like leadership and growing you, because it's the law of the lid. Your team can only go as far as you have grown. And so
Hmm.
don't cannibalize their growth by staying stuck with where you are mentally. So I love the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. That's a really great one. I am such a huge reader. I always have all these things on Audible. So, I
Hmm.
mean, I have books on books on books, but those are some that come to mind.
That's amazing. I love that. And you told me about the tax book a while back, and it's on my nightstand, and I reread it because it is so important to, understand all of that. Really quick, a last couple few questions. One daily habit that you swear by.
Ooh, I would say working out.
Yeah.
I think if you don't, at least for me, if
Hmm.
I'm not working out and I'll either do gratitude, podcast, whatever, like I take advantage of the time in multiple ways.
Yes.
But if I'm not moving, I'm not a very nice human.
Yep.
So I need to work out. That's a game changer.
I always tell people working out for me is for my mental health. The
Oh
benefit
yeah,
to my body is like the side gig, but like it's my mental
100%.
health is why I work out. So,
100%.
what does building a boss life mean to you in this season?
Mm, it's being able to build a sustainable business and keep the main thing the main thing.
Love it.
Because I think one little side note on that is like in my 20s, it was all about really revenue, which is great. And
Hmm.
that's why you're in business. But also, you want to be thinking about the other pieces at play. What is thinking about that total wellness concept, physical,
Hmm.
financial, personal, and environmental. And if you are doing really bad mentally, but you're still raking in the dough and
Hmm.
you have a mental breakdown, how much is that money going to be worth to you?
Right.
So you really want to be thinking about that total wellness concept.
I love that. Where can listeners go to connect with you, learn more, and join your community?
Yes. So one of the places that I hang out is on Instagram at ladyboss_SP. I love connecting with so many incredible people all over, even all over the world. Like I've met the coolest people on Instagram. So that would be one of the main places that I would say I hang out socially online. And then also my website is thebosslife.tv. And so if you have any questions, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. Feel free to send me on the contact page on thebosslife.tv. I am an open book and want to help you reach your goals. That's what fires me up.
Awesome. Steph, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing your energy. I am like energized for like the rest of the week. I think I just love the energy that you share. I think we vibe so well together. We're so similar. We appreciate your experience and your vision to She Talks Money. You've shown us that wealth isn't just about numbers, it's about identity, confidence, and having the courage to take the first step. To everyone listening, if you've been sitting on an idea or waiting for the right time to build your side hustle, start investing, or claim your freedom, this is your sign. Take the leap. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to begin. So follow Steph on Instagram and check out her site. And if this episode lit a fire under you, screenshot it, take us both, and please share your biggest takeaway. Until next time, keep building a life and legacy you love. You've got this.